A faint tremor in the very air you breathe is your constant companion, a whisper of secrets yet to be unveiled. You are an alchemist in the heart of the Renaissance, your soul aflame with the singular ambition to forge the legendary philosopher's stone. Dust motes dance in the slivers of moonlight, piercing the grimy leaded windows of your sanctuary, your hallowed laboratory. The air, thick with the scent of sulfur, quicksilver, and ancient parchment, is a testament to your unyielding dedication. For years you have toiled, an unsleeping sentinel against the tide of ignorance, your hands calloused, your eyes perpetually strained from countless hours poring over cryptic texts. Retorts bubble softly, their contents a swirling kaleidoscope of potential, each reaction a prayer, each failure a lesson etched deep into your weary spirit. You trace the intricate diagrams in a tome older than your city, the faint scent of decay rising from its brittle pages. The quest for the philosopher's stone consumes you utterly, a relentless fire in your veins. Sleep is a forgotten luxury, food a mere necessity to sustain the relentless pursuit. Every waking moment, every fleeting thought is dedicated to unraveling the universe's ultimate secret, the transmutation of base metals into gold, the elixir of eternal life, the key to all knowledge. The stacks of forgotten experiments, the shattered vials, the scorched table, they are not failures but stepping stones, each one bringing you infinitesimally closer to the divine truth you seek. The flickering flame of your oil lamp casts dancing shadows, making the gargoyles carved into your wooden beams seem to writhe with unspoken anticipation. You stir a concoction of cinnabar and vitriol, your gaze intense, your breath held, awaiting the subtle shift, the telltale shimmer that would herald success. But it never comes, not yet. Still, hope persists, an unyielding ember in the depths of your resolve, fueling another night of ceaseless endeavor, another dawn breaking over your silent, solitary quest. Your mind races through countless hypotheses, discarding old theories, formulating new ones, always pushing the boundaries of known science and delving deeper into the arcane arts. The quiet hum of your various apparatuses is the only company you truly desire, their rhythmic bubbling and steaming a soothing symphony to your restless intellect. Each sunrise finds you still at your bench, often slumped in your chair, a half-finished diagram clutched in your hand, only to be roused by the insistent call of your ambition, pulling you back to the endless cycle of experimentation and profound contemplation. The weight of centuries of failed attempts by others rests lightly on your shoulders, for you believe with every fiber of your being that you are different, that your unique insight, your relentless spirit, will ultimately unlock the final mystery. One particularly cold and unforgiving night, as the wind howled like a banshee through the narrow alleyways outside, rattling the very foundations of your dwelling, you found yourself sifting through a forgotten corner of your vast, chaotic library. Mountains of scrolls, some crumbling to dust at the slightest touch, others bound in forgotten leathers, lay piled precariously. Your fingers, stained with reagents and ink, brushed against a peculiar, unassuming roll tucked away behind a stack of alchemical recipes for obscure tinctures. It felt different, heavier, imbued with an almost palpable energy. Unfurling it with painstaking care, you revealed a scroll of parchment, yellowed by centuries, its edges frayed like ancient lace. It bore no obvious title, no grand inscription, only a series of intricate, looping symbols, unlike any you had ever encountered in your extensive studies of Hermetic philosophy or arcane languages. They pulsed with a silent, profound rhythm, a hidden language speaking directly to your alchemist's soul. As your gaze lingered, a pattern began to emerge, a subtle interplay of lines and curves that seemed to shift and coalesce before your very eyes. You felt a prickling sensation on your skin, a shiver of profound recognition that transcended mere intellect. This was not just another ancient text, this was a cipher, a key. The symbol, a surge of adrenaline coursed through your veins, banishing the fatigue of weeks. This was it. This was the breakthrough, the divine intervention you had secretly prayed for. This ancient document, lying dormant for centuries, now rested in your trembling hands, a fragile bridge connecting you to the ultimate secret, a lost piece of the grand puzzle of creation itself. The faint scent of ozone now mingled with the familiar laboratory odors, a harbinger of the immense power you felt stirring within the symbols. Your mind raced, connecting disparate pieces of knowledge you had accumulated over years, seeing now how they fit perfectly into the framework presented by this newfound wisdom. The world outside, with its mundane concerns, ceased to exist. There was only you, the ancient manuscript, and the intoxicating promise of imminent discovery. You spent the remainder of the night, and indeed many subsequent nights, poring over the text, painstakingly translating its arcane script, each revelation more astounding than the last. The deeper you delved, the more you understood that this was not merely a recipe, but a philosophical treatise, a spiritual journey encoded in alchemical terms, a map to unlock not just matter, but consciousness itself. The symbols seemed to breathe, to live, guiding your hand as you copied them, as you attempted to replicate their intricate forms, feeling their latent power resonate through your very being. Your relentless progress, however, cast long and unwelcome shadows. The subtle yet potent energies now emanating from your laboratory, the faint unearthly glows that sometimes escaped through a poorly latched shutter, did not go unnoticed in the labyrinthine heart of the city. One evening, as a thick fog rolled in from the river, muffling the usual clamor of the streets, you caught a fleeting glimpse. A figure cloaked in heavy dark fabric stood motionless across the narrow street, half obscured by the swirling mist, directly opposite your window. You felt a cold dread coil in your stomach, a primal instinct screaming of danger. When you looked again, the figure was gone, vanished as if swallowed by the night itself, leaving only a lingering chill in the air. This was not an isolated incident. Days turned into weeks, and the unsettling occurrences multiplied. You would find your laboratory door ajar, despite having locked it yourself. Small, insignificant objects would be subtly rearranged. A faint, unfamiliar scent would sometimes linger in the air, a scent not of your own making, like old incense or burnt herbs. Then came the whispers, insidious and pervasive, carried on the breath of merchants in the marketplace, echoing in the hushed conversations of scholars. Rumors of your arcane experiments, of the strange lights and potent odors emanating from your dwelling, began to spread like a virulent plague. They spoke of forbidden knowledge, of pacts with unseen forces, of powers beyond mortal comprehension. Each rumor, distorted and exaggerated, seemed to find its way back to you, chilling your resolve. And inevitably these dark whispers reached the ears of those who sought to control such knowledge, to extinguish any spark of unauthorized brilliance. The grim specter of the Inquisition, a force as relentless as fate itself, began to loom over your secluded existence. You heard the name mentioned in hushed tones, Inquisitor Valerius, a man renowned for his unwavering zeal, his iron will, and his merciless pursuit of anything he deemed heretical. His very name struck fear into the hearts of even the most powerful lords, and his methods were rumored to be beyond cruel. The air grew heavy with unspoken menace. Each creak of the floorboards, each shadow playing on the walls, seemed to hold a sinister meaning. Your sanctuary was no longer impenetrable. The world outside, with its fear and its judgment, was pressing in. The once exhilarating pursuit of knowledge now carried a tangible weight of peril, each new discovery a step closer to either enlightenment or damnation. You were no longer just an alchemist. You were a target, a beacon for those who saw only heresy where you saw truth. The stakes had been raised immeasurably, and your solitary quest had become a dangerous game of cat and mouse with forces far more powerful than any alchemical reagent. The ancient manuscript, a beacon of forgotten wisdom, had unveiled the next crucial step in your great work. But it demanded an ingredient of unparalleled rarity and, more disturbingly, profound notoriety. It was a component whispered about only in the darkest corners of forgotten libraries, a substance believed to hold the very essence of primordial chaos, a crystallized fragment of the world's original entropy. Its acquisition was not merely difficult, it was an act of defiance against all established norms, a direct challenge to the natural order, a transgression against the very boundaries of creation. The manuscript explicitly stated its source: the sprawling subterranean labyrinth of catacombs beneath the city, a place shunned by the living, a silent necropolis holding the secrets of centuries of forgotten souls. Accessing it meant descending into a realm of eternal twilight, a place where the air hung heavy with the dust of ages, and the faint, unsettling scent of decay, a place where time itself seemed to stagnate. Tales of these catacombs were not mere folklore. They spoke of ancient guardians, not of flesh and blood, but of ingenious mechanisms designed to deter the curious and punish the trespassers. Lethal pressure plates, tripwires connected to hidden crossbows, collapsing ceilings, and poisoned darts were just a few of the horrors recounted in hushed tones by those few madmen who claimed to have ventured there and returned. Yet the call of the Philosopher's Stone was an irresistible siren song, overriding all fear, eclipsing all caution, for the completion of your magnum opus depended entirely on this single dangerous acquisition. You meticulously prepared, gathering your tools, a lantern casting weak, flickering light, a coil of sturdy rope, a handful of dried herbs to ward off unseen specters, and a small, sharp dagger, its blade honed to a razor's edge. The night you chose was moonless, shrouded in an impenetrable blanket of darkness, the perfect cloak for your clandestine descent. The entrance, a barely discernible opening hidden beneath a crumbling mausoleum in the oldest cemetery, felt like a gaping maw leading to the underworld, its cold breath rising to meet you. As you squeezed through the narrow passage, the chill that permeated the air was not merely from the earth. It was the cold breath of oblivion, the very essence of death clinging to your skin. Each step echoed unnaturally in the oppressive silence, amplifying the frantic beat of your own heart. The air grew heavier, thick with the scent of damp earth and something else, something metallic and ancient, a faint tang of forgotten blood. You navigated twisting passages, your lantern beam dancing over walls adorned with cryptic carvings and the silent skeletal remains of those who had, perhaps, sought the same forbidden knowledge, their fates a grim warning. A faint click, almost imperceptible, made you freeze, your senses screaming a warning. You saw it then, a nearly invisible thread stretched taut across the passageway just at ankle height, catching the faint flicker of your lantern. Your quick reflexes saved you from a volley of rusted spikes that shot out from a hidden recess in the wall opposite, embedding themselves with a sickening thud. The sheer ingenuity and malice of the forgotten architects of these traps were chillingly evident. The deeper you delved, the more treacherous the path became, each shadow a potential threat, each sound a harbinger of doom. But the allure of the ingredient, the promise of unlocking the final stage of your grand work, propelled you onward, an unstoppable force against the encroaching darkness and the silent, deadly guardians of the catacombs. You finally found it, deep within a chamber carved with symbols of cosmic alignment, a small obsidian-like shard, pulsing with a faint internal light, resting on a pedestal that seemed to hum with latent energy. With the rare, pulsating ingredient secured within a specially prepared lead-lined container, its faint, unsettling warmth radiating through the metal, you began your ascent from the suffocating depths of the catacombs. A triumphant exhilaration surged through you, a heady mix of relief and accomplishment. You had faced the ancient terrors and emerged victorious, the ultimate prize within your grasp. But your triumph was short-lived. As you emerged into the cool night air, scrambling through the mausoleum entrance, a harsh beam of light sliced through the darkness, followed by the clang of steel and the shouts of men. There, the alchemist, their voices, sharp and accusatory, shattered the fragile peace of the night. Inquisitor Valerius's men, keen-eyed and relentless, had been waiting. They knew. Panic, cold and swift, seized you, but your years of solitary dedication had also forged an iron will and a keen sense of survival. There was no time for thought, only action. You bolted the heavy ingredient container clutched tight against your chest, your feet pounding against the cobblestones. The city, usually a familiar canvas, transformed into a hostile labyrinth. You darted down narrow alleyways, the pursuit hot on your heels, the rhythmic thud of their boots a terrifying drumbeat, growing ever closer. The shouts grew closer, their torches casting grotesque dancing shadows that stretched and contorted around every corner. A dead end, your heart hammered against your ribs, a frantic bird trapped in a cage. But you were an alchemist, a master of observation and improvisation. Your gaze swept upwards, finding purchase on a crumbling drainpipe, then a rickety wooden ladder leading to a low rooftop. Scrambling upwards with desperate energy, you pulled yourself onto the uneven tiled surface, the wind immediately whipping at your cloak, a fleeting sense of freedom filling your lungs. Below, the guards cursed, their frustration a momentary reprieve. You didn't hesitate. Across the rooftops you flew, a shadow against the moonless sky, leaping across treacherous gaps between buildings, scaling low walls, sliding down sloping tiles, your every movement a desperate prayer for escape. The adrenaline pumped through your veins, sharpening your senses to an almost supernatural degree, making the world seem to slow around you. The city unfolded beneath you, a sprawling tapestry of flickering lights and dark recesses, but you saw only the next obstacle, the next path to safety. You heard the distinct whistle of a crossbow bolt whiz past your ear, a chilling reminder of their deadly intent, the wind of its passage brushing your cheek. A guard, more agile than the others, scrambled onto a nearby roof, his sword glinting menacingly in the faint light. You had to be faster, smarter. You plunged into a maze of clotheslines, their wet garments slapping against your face, momentarily obscuring your pursuer and buying you precious seconds. Then a daring leap across a particularly wide chasm, landing precariously on the far side, your hands scraping against the rough stone, your muscles screaming with effort. The container, your precious cargo, remained safe, clutched tightly in your grasp. Their shouts grew fainter, receding into the urban din as you finally dropped down into a forgotten courtyard, hidden from view behind a tangle of overgrown vines. You were safe for now, your breath ragged, your body aching. But the chase had burned a stark truth into your mind. Your secret was out, and the hunt for you had only just begun. The power you sought came with a terrible price, and the hounds of the Inquisition were now unleashed, relentless in their pursuit. Back within the hallowed confines of your laboratory, the air thrumming with an almost palpable anticipation, you prepared for the grand culmination. The rare ingredient, still faintly warm, pulsed with an inner light, eager to be unleashed, its raw energy barely contained within its lead prison. The ancient manuscript lay open, its cryptic symbols now crystal clear, guiding your every precise movement, each line a sacred command. This was it. the moment generations of alchemists had dreamed of, the precipice between profound knowledge and utter annihilation. Your hands, usually trembling with fatigue, were now steady, imbued with a strange, almost ethereal calm, as if an unseen force guided them. Each component, carefully purified, meticulously measured, was arranged on your workbench like sacred offerings, each with its own history, its own power. The air crackled with the nascent energy, a premonition of the immense forces about to be unleashed, the very molecules of the room vibrating with anticipation. You began the process, following the manuscript's instructions with unwavering focus, your mind a singular conduit for this ancient ritual. First, the base metals, refined beyond their earthly recognition, were placed into the central alembic, a vessel specifically crafted for this ultimate transformation, its glass glowing faintly from within. Then, with a deep breath, you introduced the catalysts, the purified salts, the distilled essences, each one a step in the grand cosmic dance, their introduction sparking tiny, internal fireworks within the alembic. Finally, with a prayer whispered on your lips, a plea to the universe for guidance and grace, you added the forbidden ingredient, the pulsating heart of your quest, dropping it into the swirling mixture with a deliberate, reverent motion. The moment it touched the other elements, the laboratory was engulfed. A blinding, otherworldly light, not of fire or lamp, but of pure, concentrated energy, erupted from the alembic. It was a light that seemed to emanate from the very fabric of existence, shimmering with all the colors of the rainbow, yet somehow transcending them all, a light that was both intensely brilliant and strangely comforting. The air itself became superheated, thick with ozone and an indescribable scent of creation and destruction intertwined, a fragrance that tickled your nostrils and filled your lungs with a strange exhilaration. A low, resonant hum began, growing in intensity, vibrating through the very stone of your building, rattling the retorts and sending tremors through the floor. It was a sound that was both a deep purr and a distant roar, a symphony of elemental forces colliding, a primal song of the universe. Then came the thunder, not from the skies above, but from within the confines of your own sanctuary. A series of deep, guttural reverberations shook the foundations, as if the very earth were groaning in response to the immense power being harnessed, the very air pressing in on you. The light intensified further, becoming almost unbearable, forcing you to shield your eyes, yet you could not tear your gaze away from the spectacle unfolding before you. This was the moment of truth. Either the grand tapestry of your work would unravel into chaotic oblivion, a spectacular failure, or it would coalesce into the ultimate triumph, the realization of the magnum opus. The very air sang with possibility, stretched taut between absolute success and unimaginable disaster. Your breath hitched in your throat, your heart pounding a frantic rhythm against your ribs as the crucible of your ambition reached its fiery, luminous zenith, the culmination of your life's singular pursuit. As the blinding light began to recede, leaving behind a shimmering afterimage etched onto your retinas, and the thunderous roar subsided to a deep, resonant hum, you slowly lowered your hands. There, nestled within the heart of the alembic, where once had been a swirling, chaotic maelstrom of elements, now lay a single, perfect object. It pulsed with an inner luminescence, a deep, captivating crimson, radiating an aura of profound power and infinite wisdom. It was smooth, flawless, and undeniably real, the philosopher's stone. You reached out a trembling hand, your fingers brushing against its impossibly warm, vibrant surface. It felt like holding a fragment of the cosmos, a piece of solidified starlight, a condensed truth. A gasp escaped your lips, a sound of awe and disbelief, as the weight of your achievement settled upon you, overwhelming your senses. But the moment of triumph was immediately eclipsed by a terrifying new phenomenon. The earth beneath your feet began to tremble softly at first, then, with increasing violence, a deep shudder that rose from the very bedrock. The low hum that filled the air intensified, transforming into a deep guttural growl that resonated through your very bones, vibrating your teeth. The stone clutched in your hand pulsed brighter, as if feeding the burgeoning chaos, its crimson glow flaring with every jolt. Cracks spiderwebbed across the ancient stone walls of your laboratory, spreading with alarming speed like veins across a dying body. Dust and plaster rained down from the ceiling, stinging your eyes and coating your clothes in a fine white powder. The very foundations groaned under an unimaginable strain, the wooden beams splintering with sharp, cracking sounds that echoed like gunshots. It was an earthquake, unlike any you had ever experienced, localized yet immensely powerful, centered on the very point of your discovery, on the stone itself. The alchemical reactions, the cosmic forces you had unleashed, were tearing apart the physical world around you, unraveling the very fabric of reality. A section of the ceiling above your workstation groaned, then collapsed inward with a deafening roar, showering the space with debris, sending splinters and shards flying. The meticulously arranged shelves toppled, sending ancient texts and precious reagents crashing to the floor in a symphony of shattering glass, a final dirge for your sanctuary. The external walls, once sturdy and unyielding, began to buckle and crumble, revealing glimpses of the night sky, now strangely agitated with swirling, unearthly auroras, colors you had never seen before dancing above the city. Through the gaping maw where a wall once stood, a strange, swirling vortex of iridescent colors began to manifest, a shimmering portal to something utterly alien and unknown, a gateway to realms beyond human comprehension. It was not the familiar outside world. It was a pathway to a dimension beyond your comprehension, a consequence of your tampering with the fundamental laws of existence, a door you had unknowingly opened. The ground continued to heave, threatening to swallow you whole as the laboratory, your sanctuary, your life's work, disintegrated around you into a pile of rubble and dust. The philosopher's stone pulsed furiously in your grasp, a tiny, perfect sun, now the undeniable epicenter of this cataclysm, its power growing exponentially. You had not merely created an object of power, you had ripped a hole in the fabric of reality, opening a door to realms previously unimaginable, a gateway to entities beyond time and space. The world, the tremor, you stood, your lap, yet a strange calm settled over you, an almost divine serenity born from the ashes of destruction. The world had fractured, but you had transcended. The swirling vortex, the portal to the unknown, still pulsed faintly where the wall once stood, a silent invitation to a new reality, a beckoning beyond the familiar. You looked at the stone, its perfect surface reflecting not just the dying light of the moon, but the entirety of your journey, your unwavering dedication, your perilous sacrifices, every sleepless night, every desperate hope. You were no longer merely an alchemist, a seeker of forbidden knowledge. You were the wielder of ultimate power, the guardian of a truth so profound it had reshaped the very landscape around you. The world would never be the same. Humanity, in its ignorance, continued its mundane existence, oblivious to the profound shift you had orchestrated, to the cosmic ripple you had sent through creation. But you knew. You held the key to infinite possibility, to reshaping reality itself. The weight of this realization was immense, yet exhilarating, a burden and a liberation all at once. Your old life, your old self, was gone, crumbled away with the debris of your laboratory. A new era had dawned, and you were its reluctant yet potent harbinger, standing on the threshold of an unimaginable future. With the stone clutched tightly, its warmth spreading through your entire being, you felt a connection to something ancient, something beyond human comprehension, an intelligence that had perhaps guided your path all along, a faint whisper in the recesses of your mind. And then, as you gazed upon the swirling portal, upon the infinite possibilities stretching before you, a voice echoed in your mind. It was not your own, nor was it human. It was a chorus of whispers, ancient and vast, speaking in a language woven from pure thought, a language you now instinctively understood, its meaning resonating directly with your soul. Welcome, initiate. The stone was merely the first step. The true transmutation begins now. Your world is but a laboratory, and you its most promising experiment. For centuries we have waited for one capable of unlocking the veil. Now you are ready to serve. Your purpose from the moment of your birth was to awaken the ancient ones. We are the architects of reality, the true alchemists, and you are merely our vessel. The philosopher's stone is not a tool for human desires. It is a beacon, a key, and now it has shown us the way back. Look closely at your creation, alchemist. It was never yours to make. It was always there, waiting to be found, waiting to be activated. And now we are here. The crimson glow of the stone intensified, no longer a beacon of your triumph, but a resonant hum of an ancient alien presence echoing the words that shattered your perception of reality. You were not the master of the stone, you were merely its instrument, a pawn in a game played by entities beyond time, entities who had orchestrated your entire life, from the first flicker of curiosity to this cataclysmic moment. Your grand ambition was nothing but a preordained path, carefully laid out by unseen hands, leading you not to enlightenment, but to servitude. The true architects of your fate had finally arrived, through the very portal you had opened, and they were watching, not just you, but the entire world you had unwittingly delivered to them,